Let's start the session. So I'll screen share. So it's been a while since we started. We got to have a class because of the work. It's all right. Guys, first I'll share you the syllabus. So in this part, the first cycle, we have finished up differentiating climate and weather, the factors affecting climate on global scale, solar radiation quality and quantity, Earth's tilt and seasonal variation, radiation at Earth's surface, Earth's thermal balance, influence of wind, influence of topography. And now for today's class, we'll almost complete the first unit. We'll go in a rush. Different elements of climate: temperature, humidity, water vapor, precipitation, driving rain, and wind. Then what are the different elements of climate: sky conditions, solar radiation, vegetation, and special characteristics. Different instruments available for measuring various climate parameters. We do have a climatology lab here in the department. Otherwise, probably I'll collect some pictures and I'll display you a few climatology equipments what we use, the weather instrumentations. Climate classification, we'll just quickly run through and what are the different climates. And the last class, I asked you guys to have a reading about these elements, different elements of climate. Is like anyone's done that? Anyone's done that? Did you guys go through the book at least, the Manual of Tropical Housing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, guys, I've shared a book in the GCR. Have you guys gone through the book?
Yes, sir.
Maitri responded. What about the others? Have you guys at least downloaded the copy? Sita Lakshmi, Shubh is there. Devika's turned up now. Somashekar. Did you guys find that book what it is? Because almost everything for your syllabus is in that book. That's one point of reference is all you need. And all the notes which I'm compiling and I'll be taking up also would be from that book. And before getting on to the today's content, you guys got your marks for the climate cycle test? Not yet. Have you guys got your marks?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, the results, I'll ask Kritika ma'am to share the marks. The results, most of you have fared well. You guys have done good. If you have done with your reading, I'm sure that it will be a good knowledge improvement. But if you have referred something, it's still fine. At the first time, we are going to refer it, but hope you remember what you picked up and what you answered for, and that will definitely gain your knowledge. So we'll go to today's, we'll start off with today's class. You guys are able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for today's content, we'll be going through different elements of climate. See, I'll tell you what, this part, the different element of climate, you don't really need to go through all this theoretical part. I've summarized and I've kept a few points, but it's just a understanding of what all things we need to know about a climate and how it's been done, how it's been measured, how it's been cataloged, how it's been put up for references is what we got to know. Temperature, you guys are all sure of what temperature does. We do have a daily maximum temperature, we do have a minimum temperature. So this temperature, normally temperature is measured using a dry bulb temperature thermometer, a mercury thermometer. So this dry bulb thermometer usually would be for technical measurement, they would be kept in a box like this. This is called a Stevenson screen box. This box would be at an elevated level, and what you see at the top are these louvers, which means it's a shaded box. It's got openings, and inside the box would be the thermometer. So the thermometer, when you're measuring for temperature, you won't measure it by keeping it on a exposed place. You always do a measurement on a shaded place. That's how the temperature is recorded from the weather department. And what they do is the temperature recording happens in twice a day, and then it will be mapped for 30 days. So in that, you'd be knowing about what is the maximum temperature, mean temperature, the average or the maximum temperature for the month, and average or the maximum temperature, minimum temperature for the month. So for this, they use a mercury thermometer and kept in a Stephens box and would be done. So the temperature data here, what they mean is what I said in the second part, how the temperature recorded would be compiled for 12 months. And for each of the month, there'll be a maximum and a minimum range. Maximum mean, monthly mean maxima and monthly mean minima. Which means what is the average of the maximum on that month for the 30 days. Every day's temperature divided by 30 days, maximum temperature. And every day's minimum temperature divided by 30 days. Okay. So this is how it's going to be done for temperature. So with temperature, what is the inference? Well, how is that we're going to know about it? So we get to know about what exactly the place is responding, what exactly the place is receiving as from the atmosphere. And we tend to design our buildings appropriately based on the temperature, whether to allow the openings to be bigger so that we allow the external air to come in. Imagine in a hot place, the external air is very unpleasant for us. So what we do is, if you see in most of the places where the structures are, normally in a hot place, if you see the structures, they'll have very small openings. That's to restrict the hot air from outside to come into the building. And even it comes to the extreme cold also, this is a similar condition. So depending on the temperature, we tend to do our building designs. Next is humidity. Humidity it plays a very vital role. What it does is, humidity is basically amount of water present in a unit volume of air. It can be weighed in either kilograms or it can be in a cubic meter. So it's amount of grams of water present. Sorry. Yes. Humidity is the amount of water present in the air. And how is it going to be mattering for us? So we tend to know whether the place is humid or not humid by the study of it, and then design based appropriately for that. So how humidity is measured is, humidity is measured using a dry wet hygrometer. So what is a dry wet hygrometer is? It consists of two ordinary thermometers, mercury thermometers, one thermometer which is clean and kept without any interference. The other thermometer will have a wet gauze. Gauze is nothing but a cotton, could be a piece of cloth, a piece of cotton, gauze. So this would be attached. So for example of what it means by that is, so a dry bulb temperature is a thermometer where it's not, this is for temperature wise, but I'll tell you how the humidity is measured also. So in this thermometer, it doesn't have any interference. It just measures the outer temperature. Wherein here, it is a wet cloth attached to the end of the thermometer. So what is the readings, what we'll find in these two would be, in a dry thermometer, the actual measurement of the atmospheric temperature would be recorded without any interference. Whereas in the wet bulb thermometer, what we call as a wet bulb thermometer, there is a outer atmospheric temperature, as well as there is going to be evaporation from this wet cloth. You get the point? So this evaporation, when the place is very hot, the water is going to evaporate. So this evaporation will eventually cool down this thermometer. So visualize this part. There is a thermometer which has got showing you the actual temperature, and another thermometer which shows you what is the amount of evaporation and cooling down, and the cool down value of the temperature. So these two temperature we take and we do a comparison and get the what is the atmospheric humidity. So what is the understanding here? The understanding is, imagine it's raining outside and you have this wet and dry bulb hygrometer. When it's raining, your your atmospheric temperature is recorded, yes. But in the other temperature, the wet bulb temperature, there won't be any evaporation. Do you understand that? Because it's already raining and it's not hot, and you won't have any evaporation. So the dry bulb thermometer temperature and the wet bulb thermometer temperature would be the pretty much the same. Because when it's raining, which means it's 100% humid. It's got so much of water on the outside. So that's the understanding of humidity. If it's not raining, it's on a very hot day. And then what we get? So on the dry bulb thermometer, we'll record a temperature, which would be the actual temperature of the atmospheric in that particular place, which could be 36 or 37 degrees Celsius. And in the wet bulb, what happens is, because of this soaked up gauze at the other end, the evaporation will be more, because the atmosphere, there's no water in the atmosphere. The water from the wet cotton or the gauze evaporates and reduces the temperature substantially. So this temperature would eventually take a dip. So on the dry bulb, it would be 36 or 37. On the wet bulb, it will be either 32 or 30 degrees. So this percentage difference will give you what is the actual humidity present in the atmosphere. Vapor pressure and atmospheric pressure are two things. Again, it depends on the wind flow, as in like how vapor pressure is a concept directly used in practical work. Humidity data. From humidity data, yes, we are done with the humidity. We have found out how it's been done. Again, the humidity is being put up for the average 30 days maximum, and it's done for 12 months. And for noting down the humidity is taken as a reading for 2 times in a day, one in the morning, early hours, and another one at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The reason why is, once you take in the morning, before the sun comes up, the humidity would be the maximum for that place. And by afternoon 3, when the climate is reached its peak and settling down for a sunset, so that would, at that time, the humidity would be comparatively lesser. So this gives a maximum value in the morning and the minimum value in the afternoon. That's how it's taken up. Next, we go on to precipitation. Precipitation is nothing but amount of rainfall. As architects, and we are doing a climatic study, isn't it not responsible for us to understand what is the rainfall in a particular place and design buildings accordingly? One easy, understandable example we can take is looking on to our neighbor, Kerala. Kerala receives a copious amount of rainfall. So, hence, because of the rainfall factor, you see a lot of slope roofs put up in Kerala. But now that convention has changed. There are a lot of other methods adapted also. But see the influence of rainfall bringing into the architectural difference here. In most of the places, in other for heavier rainfall places also, you won't see much of flat roofs. The reason is the heavy water collection brings in too much of dead load, and they need to find a way to remove the water. So this way, when you do a slope roof, it's much more functional. So how is the rainfall measured? Rainfall is measured using rain gauges, and it is measured as number of millimeters per day. Normally, in a news, or if you're hearing a news or looking at a newspaper, when we see speak about a rainfall, what is the data they give you? This is the number of rain is recorded in this place for today. So that's how it is being calculated. So what is driving rain? Driving rain is nothing but it's the rainfall accompanied with the wind also. So this wind, most of the rains which has a wind along with it, and what is the influence of this in the buildings. So an example is, so here the wind speed is measured as meter square per second. Up to 3 meters square, a driving rain of is comparatively, it's comfortable, it's shelterable. The exposure of wind and rain of 3 to 7 meters square is considered to be moderate, and above 7 is considered to be serious. So again, with this wind direction, you, as in what is that inference we going to have is, when we know it's going to be quite a windy place, we can definitely alter the alter the material usage in that place. We can minimize the amount of glazings because we know there might be some influence about what is the pressure going to apply on the surface. The material usage can be moderated. And the system of anchoring in a sense, imagine if you're doing a paneling, a dry paneling or a screen curtain wall, these curtain walls can be avoided in a severe driving wind places. Now we go into the wind measurement. Okay, so this driving wind is about the rainfall and the wind together. Otherwise, normally when we look into the wind direction. So in the practically what we look into is which is the predominant wind direction and which is the prevailing wind direction. The difference is predominant wind direction is recorded for a period of 12 months, and it needs to be categorized. The wind is not a constant factor, it's not going to come through the same place. So predominant wind is recorded for a period, and then from which we are prevailing wind direction is what is the current wind direction, is what we call it as a prevailing. So how is the wind measurement is done? It is done through a cup type or a propeller anemometer. What is a propeller anemometer is? Hope you guys would have seen something like this. You have a fan blade on the edge, and the one you see here is a cup type, and the one you see at the bottom is a propeller anemometer. So what it does is it turns towards the direction of the wind flow, and it records what is the speed of wind in that particular direction. So normally the directions are divided into 3 subcategories, which is that 4 cardinal directions: northeast, southwest, and 4 semi-cardinal direction: northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest, and 8 tertiary compass points: north, northeast, east, east, north, and north. So how is it represented is, so this is how it's been represented. The primary, the north, east, these are primary cardinal points, and the secondary cardinal points, and the other points here: the north, northeast, east, north, east, east, southeast, south, southeast. So these are the 16 directions in which a wind speed would be recorded. And one important part is here, these propeller type of anemometers, if they are done on a flat ground, a flat place where they don't have any tall structures or any buildings on the interfere, it's normally placed at a height of 10 meters, which is approximately 33 feet. If it's going to be on a buildings or in a city, they place it on a height of 10 to 20 meters to avoid any obstructions. So wind data is nothing but how it's been collected for the period of time. And normally a wind data would be collected for generally for 25 to 50 years of data accumulation, which gives the wind speed. So beyond what are the other elements of climate, now we come into sky condition. What is the sky condition here is whether how the sky is covered with the clouds, whether it's a clear sky or it's a clouded sky, is partially clouded. So normally how it's be counted is recorded as covers in 10th even in 8th octets. So 50% is 5/10 is what they call it. So this again would give you what is the ideal, how the roofs and the overhangs and the shading devices need to be placed for sky condition. Vegetation is nothing but a vegetation in a place really reflects onto the climate of the particular region. An example, if I can tell you, we know about a climate of a desert, but if you can see a cactus growing in a place, then we can again do a climate. I'm saying in a natural condition, not in a nursery. Are we going to grow it for our own interest? But on a vegetation, on a natural environment, if you are able to identify what kind of plants we have, we'll be able to judge what the climate is and respond to it. That is about the vegetation. So now we have completed the elements of climate, the first part of it. Now we go into the climatic zones and classification of climate. So what is the classification of climate is nothing but, see, the climate classification is, can we have a specific border to differentiate climate in the across the globe? Can you guys unmute your mic at least and respond here? Can we have a specific border saying that this climate exists only here and this doesn't come out here? Is it possible?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Good. Yes. The reason is because they normally, when the climate appears, when the climate is represented for the globe, there are multiple people have proposed multiple methodologies and they have done it in various time periods. So the Köppen climate classification is one of them. So it was first published by the German-Russian climatologist Vladimir Köppen in the year 1846 to 1940. So how he differentiated climate is, he's taken climate as 5 main groups: tropical, dry, temperate, continental, and polar. And this is how he's represented the climate across the globe. So this, you don't need to really understand what it is, as in like various climatic classification is what we are speaking about. Because we know climate always have, the climate from a region and another region always have overlap and eventually subside and turn into another climate. So this representation and how we study the climatic data, for that purpose, we look into the Köppen climatic classification. This much of understanding is good enough. You don't need to go much beyond this. The climatic zones in India. So this is one data. I want you guys, so this information, you guys are going to do it as an activity for yourself, because these are much simpler terms, as in the hot, dry, warm, humid, composite, temperate, and cold. This all is available again in the Manual of Tropical Housing book. And here it gives you what is the characteristic of the place for each of the climate. Hot, dry, how is it going to be? And what is the summer midday temperature, the summer night temperature? What is the relative humidity, annual precipitation, sky condition, places, example. See, this gives you much a clear idea about this. And probably this data, I think this I picked it up from ECBC book. So I'll share you this data alone, because other conditions are all applicable. You do have all of them in the Manual of Tropical Housing. This in particular, I give you this. And this gives you an overall idea of what is the each of the places climatic zones. And this is pretty much the same data, but I've just done it on the. So with this, we'll be completing the cycle 1. I want you guys, you can ask me any queries or anything which is not clear. You tell me. I'll rephrase it and put it to you across again.
The measuring of humidity, you said about the wet bulb and the dry bulb. If we put a cotton on it with a wet on the wet bulb,
Yes.
when you said when it evaporates, I mean, how is the humidity calculated? I mean, if it evaporates, does it equalize the? I mean,
No.
what
When it evaporates, what it does is, because of the water evaporating, the atmosphere doesn't have. If the atmosphere is dry, That's the only condition when the water evaporates. On a colder place, does the water evaporate? Only when it's hot, the water evaporates. When there's heat. See, humidity is basically amount of water present in the unit volume of air. So how can you describe it? If the air is already been humid, if the humidity reaches 100%, then it's going to be rainfall. That's when we get rainfall, right? So when it's
Yes, sir.
rainfall means
So if it's humid, it's not gonna evaporate.
the evaporation,
So
what
it's
it does
humid
to the
around, then it's not gonna evaporate.
yes, exactly. That's if it's humid, if it's already humid, then it won't evaporate. That's why I gave you an example of the rain. When it's raining, the cotton, because see, both of these thermometers are kept in a dry condition. It's kept in a shaded condition. Okay. And when it's already raining and it's going to be so, which means the atmosphere is already humid. And in that case, there won't be any evaporation from the gauze. So the temperature from the dry bulb temperature as well as from the wet bulb temperature would be the same. But as in, if it's not been raining, if the place is just, if the place is hot and the humidity level is comparatively low, evaporation is also based on the humidity level only. If it's 70 to 80% humid, the atmosphere is humid, the evaporation in that place won't be much. If it's very dry, imagine a place like Rajasthan, the humidity will be dry. So the evaporation rate would be higher. Whereas for us in Chennai, the evaporation rate would be comparatively lower to Rajasthan. The reason is we are adjacent to a sea and we are in a humid condition. The evaporation rate would be much slower than what it is in Rajasthan for the same temperature. Is there anything else, guys, you want to know? Any doubts, anything which you're not clear with? Because we are done with the unit 1, cycle 1, and probably from the next class, we'll start out with the cycle 2. Anything you're not understanding? See, I'll tell you what, the only time I can, the whole thing is, I've not read through the literature part, what exactly is mentioned. The reading part, I put it to you. I'm here to explain you how each of the process functions and how each of these are calculated and how it's inferred and used as an architect. How this climate analysis is going to be helpful and in what aspect we have to look into also. So the topics which we cover, the elements of climate, the different climatic zones. As I said, I'll share you the ECBC's page copies also. Have a study on it, have a reading on it. If you're not able to understand, and then put it across to me, I'll help you out and make you understand that. Is that fine? Guys, Gary, at least come on to your videos and be acknowledging this. Guys, turn on your videos and acknowledge. So can you guys do a reading and then get back to me on the same thing? Get into your GCR. In the study material context, I've given the book, and this has been repeated from the last class also. Download the book, go through the book, see what's there, what is the things which I've taught, have a reading, and it's for your own understanding. If you're still not able to understand it, I'm pretty much there to help you out, and I can rephrase it, or I can narrate it in a different method so that you'll be able to understand it. Fine. So you guys will do that in the next class.
Yes, sir.
Fine. Any other queries, any doubts you have? If you don't have any queries, probably if you have any queries after the reading, we can again sit back in the next class and I'll explain you that. Any difficulty with the test, what you attended? Any content you're not aware of or anything which you want to know the answers for? Okay, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, you have anything, Maitri?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time. So we'll end the session. Hope you all have marked your attendance in GCR. Okay. Okay. See you, guys. Yeah. Bye. Thank you.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sri Kumran. Thank you.